If you suck at meditation, today's episode is for you. Hi, and welcome back to the Stepping Into Yourself podcast. I am your host, Tori Stauffer, and today we are talking all about meditation, why people meditate, my own story with coming from a person who could meditate for like a minute, and then we'll also go into some of the tools that have really helped me to grow my meditation practice. So many times people that I'm working with will say that, they get like itchy or just like the constant chatter and noise in their brain when they're trying to meditate. And just so many people, the words I hear is, I don't like meditation, or I can't meditate, or it's just not for me. So tune in, don't go anywhere. This one is for you. It's not that you can't meditate. It's that your nervous system is not yet trained to meditate. And a lot of times the stillness and quiet, if we haven't done that, it can make us feel very unsafe instead of making us feel peaceful. So let's back up. Before we get into how to grow a meditation practice, let's talk about why meditation matters. Meditation really is the key to unlocking our highest self. You don't have to use it, but it's a tool that really helps you to tap into your intuition, to listen and to be able to hear your highest self come through. And it's a way that I regulate my nervous system. And for me, being able to step into higher and higher levels, I really do need a regulated nervous system and the ability to see the difference between like the incessant chatter in my brain versus my actual intuition talking. So I've been able to do that through a meditation practice, but it wasn't always easy. The key for meditation for me is to reframe it, that it's not about discipline, it's about devotion. It's not saying I have to go meditate, it's choosing the devotion of like, I want to grow this side of me, and part of that is this devotion of meditation. You're never going to meet your intuition or your highest self through effort or through hustling harder or through working at it. You're really going to meet her through stillness and presence. And that's at the heart of what meditation is. So I'm going to back up and tell you a little bit about kind of where I was when I started, and I was working with Sarah, my spiritual advisor, and she was really encouraging me to develop a meditation practice. I said the same things. Like, I'm not good at it. I'm not good. I can't sit still, my brain, my mind. And so the first thing she did was allow me to be where I was at, to give myself a little bit of grace. And it kind of allowed for the rest of it. I am a person who my brain is always on. It is always running. I don't know if it's just me and my ADHD or if it's being an entrepreneur or having 4 kids, whatever. It's just always, my brain is always going. And it was at the point where like I would go to sleep at night and it would take me an hour and a half to fall asleep. Or if I woke up in the middle of the night, sometimes I couldn't get back to sleep at all. It would just keep going. And it was just always, as soon as my head would hit the pillow, it would just, the voice would start. It's the to-do list. It's the over-analyzing everything. It's the loops. It's going through everything over and over again. And I bring this up because I discovered the connection when I was working with Sarah, and she had made a comment about like, when are you still or quiet during the day? Like, when do you have moments of quiet time? And I was like, I'm an entrepreneur mom of 4. I don't have any quiet time. Like, there is none. And she's like, why don't you try? So it started, and I don't remember how, but one day I got in my car and I turned the music off. I didn't have anybody in the car with me. It was just me, and I turned the music off and I drove like 15-20 minutes just with no music. And I wasn't thinking about anything in particular. I just drove in silence. So I was purely doing this because of the meditation practice, right? And to be able to have a little bit more quiet time during the day. But what happened was, when I went to bed that night, my head hit the pillow and I went right to sleep. So I think that there is a connection. And here's what I think it is. We live in a society where there is just incessant noise. There is always input. It is always like learn, 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 more. Instagram, like scroll, listening to the music, seeing all the videos online, work, kids, TV, all of it, right? And we don't allow ourselves to have quiet time. And so what I realized regarding my sleep first was when my head would hit the pillow at night, it was the first time that my brain had to go through everything it wanted to think about, whether it was my to-do list, whether it was like, going over a conversation I had earlier in that day, whether it was analyzing something from 2 weeks ago, whether it was thinking about an idea I have in my business. It was the only time I was allowing my brain to do that. Well, it's the same thing with meditation. If you don't have a quiet time in your day to let your brain do what it needs to do, file its little things into the compartments and expand itself, it will do it at the first available quiet time. So if that's bedtime, it'll do it then. If it's meditation, that's when it'll do it. And so that's the first thing I tell people is if you are struggling with that voice in your head that is just on constant go when you're trying to meditate, the first thing is add in just 5 to 10 minutes of quiet time during your day. It could be on a walk. It could be in the car. You could be like a quiet car psycho like me. Anything. It really just allowing yourself time to let your mind wander and do its thing will be hugely beneficial. The second thing is working with your nervous system. So in meditation, you'll always hear people talking about the breath and focusing on the breath. And there's a very good reason for it. It helps you to quiet that voice because you kind of let the voice go and you bring it back to focusing on breath. So a breath pattern, whether it's like, the 4x4. So like 4 breaths in, hold it for 4, exhale for 4, hold it for 4. If you're someone who's like got a lot of anxiety, a really good breath pattern is when you have a breathe out that's longer than the breath in. So breathing in for 4 and then breathing out for 6, something like that, where it makes you go out longer. Focusing on the breath allows you to stop focusing on the noise. So if you start getting those voices, I give myself a little grace now. I say, okay, I hear you. We're going to file that and we will come back to it later. And right now we're going to return to the breath. And so I'm not like scolding myself, right? Because we don't want the nervous system to be like, you're bad. It's just like, hey, now's not the time. Let's come back to this later. This was a really great thought. Let's return to the breath. So if you find yourself going off, always try and have a breathing. So every single meditation I start now will always start with just a deep breath in. I take like a little extra breath in to really fill up, and then I will sigh it all out first. And then I will go into a breathing pattern and hold it for a little bit. And then I kind of stop focusing on the breathing pattern, and I'll just kind of be. And then if my thoughts start to wander or I start up with my to-do list, then I will come back to that same breathing pattern until it feels like it's good. And then I'll kind of let it all go again. The other thing that I really love is that I got this from Sarah. I can't claim it, but it works. Is stretching your practice one more round. So when I started, I told her, hey, I can only go like a minute, maybe 2 minutes before I'm like, oh, I got to get up. I can't sit here any longer. And she's like, okay, so do a minute or 2. That's fine. And then she encouraged me to do this like stretching practice. And it's when my body first says, hey, it's time to go. Let's be done. Again, that's not your body. It kind of is. It's your nervous system, right? Your nervous system doesn't feel safe. So what we need to do is we're going to start building that self-trust. So you're going to say, okay, we're going to go one more round. So you do focus on the breathing again, get yourself back into it, and go just one more round. And sometimes that is 30 seconds more, and sometimes it's 15 minutes more. But the very next time when your body says, oh, nope, no thank you, time to stop, that's when you stop. So your body is learning, okay, I can go one more. I trust you. You're going to stop on the very next one so we can stretch it a little bit more. And that practice right there is what started getting me longer stretches of time in meditation. Now, at first, it was stretching me to being like a 3-minute practice, right? But now I can go much, much longer. I also want to go through some tools that I find really helpful when we're starting out or looking to really grow. The first one is guided meditations. So if you're starting from a meditation practice of 0, I would highly recommend starting with guided meditations. And I can link some of my favorites down below. But the benefit of the guided meditation is you kind of learn the ins and outs of the patterns of meditation, of dropping into meditation, kind of how to be during it, and then kind of exiting meditation. I did that for a couple of years and it was really beneficial, but I did get to a point where I really needed nobody guiding me through it because it was inhibiting my ability to actually hear myself. So it's a really great tool for starting out and I highly recommend it. There are all kinds of guided meditations. You can have a 5-minute guided meditation. You can have an 1.5-hour Joe Dispenza guided meditation. It really is kind of what you are ready for. And so a lot of times if you're looking, YouTube is a great place to search for guided meditations and you can find things, you can search specifically what you're looking for. So maybe a morning guided meditation or a highest self guided meditation or maybe you have anxiety, maybe anxiety reducing, guided meditation. There's all kinds of things. So whatever you feel called to or whatever is driving your desire to develop a meditation practice, I highly recommend looking that up and starting there. When you do get to the point of doing the non-guided meditations, those can start feeling overwhelming. So a few things that I've used. One is complete silence is very hard for me to meditate in because, again, I don't know if it's my ADD or if it's just normal, but I will hear every single sound. It will be the exact moment my dog decides to start barking, or I can hear the trash truck, or whatever it is, I hear it and it takes me out of focus. So having music in the background, and now it has to be non-lyrical music, at least for me. If it's lyrics, then my brain wants to focus on the words. And then again, it kind of defeats the purpose. So, and again, I'll just go on Apple Music or Spotify and look up meditation music and just find a playlist I like and just let it go. So that's the first thing. The next one is if sitting there in not silence, but just sitting there is like, oh, this is too much. This is too much me time with myself. Try doing a walking meditation. So for those, it's not like a podcast and they do have, if you want to try a guided meditation for walking, you can, but the one I really love is just walking with nothing, like raw dogging the walk where you're no music, no podcast, no book on tape, nothing, just walking and listening to the sounds of nature and just sort of noticing. And this is also good because I kind of will use this sometimes as my quiet time where I let my mind wander. But that's a really great way to do it too. If you're doing it as a meditation though, again, focus on the breath and kind of on the nothingness. The next thing is when you are finding a time to meditate, it's making sure you're going to be relatively distraction free. As I develop this, like I said, I have kids and for a long time, I just didn't meditate on the weekends. I would come home and I would tell my husband hey, I'm going to go upstairs and meditate. And I would go up to meditate and I can hear the kids screaming downstairs. And as much as it wasn't bad, they were joyful. It was wonderful. I was not at a place in my meditation practice where I could hear that in the background and not be distracted. It would I could feel my anxiety or nervous system or whatever spiking or getting mad or whatever. And so I kind of just resolved that I don't meditate on the weekends. That has since changed. But I really, at first, I only, so I'm a photographer by trade. So when I started, I really would be at my photography studio and I would do it there. And it would be, completely my space, and it was kind of protected. And I was also at a time where like I wasn't ready to share everything I was doing, like meditation wise, spirituality wise. Like I wasn't ready for there to be an audience to that. And I wasn't ready to explain it to anybody because I really wasn't even sure of it myself. So it kind of gave me the privacy to do it in my own space. Even now, like now I'm kind of between studios, and so I'm working from home, and it's like today I was trying to meditate and I was in a really, really good meditation, and it was like deeply in, and I was like there, and it was such a good meditation. And then I heard my husband works from home too. And I heard him open the door and start walking toward me. And I was just like, all right, I'm awake now. So not that I was asleep, but you know what I mean? Like it pulled me out of my meditation, and it wasn't anything bad on him. He wasn't doing anything. He was being very respectful. I just heard him. And so it was this distraction. So I know that like for me, it's easier for me to meditate when I'm in like a non-interruption container where I can kind of control the environment. And then the last tip I'm going to give you as a tool is like a nonsense word or a mantra. So there are still times where I struggle with it. And there's probably other things going on when my like inner dialogue is spiking more, whether it's that I haven't been giving myself enough quiet time or just life in general is a little more chaotic. Sometimes none of these tools will work. And that's when I will bring in like a mantra. This is taught in, I think it's called transcendental meditation, which I don't know the ins and outs of that, but I learned a little bit about it, and I kind of picked up on the mantra. And here's why it works for me. It's saying a nonsense word over and over. Now, it literally can't mean anything because our brain is always going to try and pick at whatever we're talking about. So if we have a word that means something, even if it doesn't mean anything like directly to us, it will try and process it and then go down that path. But if you come up with a specific word that means nothing, and you're like doing your breath, and then you kind of bring in this word just over and over and over, your brain gets to focus, like it's having to focus on saying the word, but it doesn't mean anything. So it's not focusing on any of the thoughts or feelings or loops that it normally goes through. And I use it the same way that I use the breath, is that I will say it for a long time. Because usually when I'm using this tool, it is because nothing else is working. So I will say this specific word for a long time, and then very much like focusing on the breath, I will let it go and just let myself be in silence. And then if I start my thoughts back up again, which again, this is one of those times where it often will, I will come right back to that mantra word and start going over and over. But just remember, like sometimes your mind just needs something to do so that your awareness can lead. So using these different tools while you're building the practice can be really, really helpful. So start by just giving one of these things a try. If you don't have any other quiet time in your day, I highly recommend you start with that. Just giving yourself 5 to 15 minutes a day of quiet time wherever it is. Or just whichever one felt like, ooh, that really, really hit, or oh, that sounds easy. I could easily add that in. So I like starting with the easy one because it's kind of like the low-hanging fruit. It's easy to get a quick win and start seeing it. The women that I work with who eventually feel the most connected to themselves aren't the ones that are meditating the longest. They're the ones that keep showing up even when it feels messy. So give yourself permission to meditate messy, to meditate for a minute, to meditate and I mean, I'm only at the point I'm at now because I allowed myself to be sitting upstairs, meditating for 3 minutes, and then getting like rage mad because everything was interrupting me and storming down and being like, I can't do this, right? Like being bratty and allowing yourself to meet yourself wherever you are is the key to developing that meditation practice. So do it even when it feels messy. But even if meditation has felt inaccessible to you over the years, let this be your permission to do it differently, to do it your way, because your way still counts. Thanks so much for joining me today. Drop a comment below. Let me know how it's going. Talk to you soon.